never doubt that one person can make a difference. When it comes to having a central nervous system, and the ability to feel pain, hunger, and thirst, a rat is a pig is a dog is a boy. Although we have, in theory, abolished human slavery, recognized women's rights, and stopped child labor, we continue to enslave other species who, if we simply pay attention, show quite clearly that they experience parental love, pain, and the desire for freedom, just as we do. Animals aren't any better equipped to survive an emergency than humans are. Few people miss the fact that after Hurricane Katrina, people died because buses and emergency shelters wouldn't allow their animals. Every animal has his or her story, his or her thoughts, daydreams, and interests. All feel joy and love, pain and fear, as we now know beyond any shadow of a doubt. All deserve that the human animal afford them the respect of being cared for, with great consideration for those interests, or left in peace. UK citizens fleeing the Middle East and Japan have been allowed to take their animal companions with them on evacuation flights. The US is not so civilized, and that's a blot on our national copybook. There's nothing humane about the flesh of animals who have had 1 or 2 or even 3 improvements made in their singularly rotten lives on today's factory farms. It is only human supremacy, which is as unacceptable as racism and sexism, that makes us afraid of being more inclusive. All of us in society are supposed to believe that cruelty to animals is wrong, and that it is a good thing to prevent needless suffering. So if that is true, how can meat be acceptable under any but the most extraordinary circumstances, such as perhaps roasting the bird who died flying into a window? A lot of people have culturally induced ethical blindness, but they can be cured. Fortified plant-based milks are delicious and contain all the calcium, protein, and vitamin D of dairy products, but with none of the cholesterol, lactose, hormones, or cruelty found in cow's milk. Perhaps measuring animal intelligence by comparing it to human intelligence isn't the best litmus test. Why go for a costly, sickly, mass-produced purebred when shelters are full of one-of-a-kind mixed breeds, who are literally dying for a home? Consumers of meat, eggs, and dairy products might well ask what they are supporting. Do farmers care about anyone but themselves? Can't anyone see the cow for the cheese? The wonderful thing is that it's so incredibly easy to be kind. Pigeon racing is a lousy, greedy, and often unlawful activity. One thing that it is not is kind to birds. To me, it is one world, and the non-human animals bear the brunt of oppression and suffering. If you like to bake with eggs, you can substitute energy egg replacer, bananas, tofu, or many other ingredients. You get the hang of it quickly enough. If we are ever to halt climate change and conserve land, water, and other resources, not to mention reduce animal suffering, we must celebrate Earth Day every day at every meal. All tyranny, bigotry, aggression, and cruelty are wrong, and whenever we see it, we must never be silent. Today, I marvel at the vegan foods in the supermarket, at the cruelty-free clothing choices in stores, and at the fantastic alternatives to dissection in schools, the modern ways to test medicines without killing rabbits and beagles, the many forms of entertainment involving purely human performers. Pigeons are gentle and smart and have complex social relationships. Their hearing and vision are both excellent. Elephants have the largest brains of any mammal on the face of the earth. They are creative, altruistic, and kind. Real nutrition comes from soybeans, almonds, rice, and other healthy vegetable sources, not from a cow's udder. One hates to be absolute, but in my view, there is no such thing as humane meat. Being asked to support humane meat means being asked to support the suffering of animals in transport, to approve of treatment that causes them palpable fear, their bodies shaking and their eyes wide as saucers, as they are slung by their legs into crates that are slammed onto the back of a truck. By adopting a wonderful mutt, you'll save a life and help reduce animal homelessness while also boosting your chances of a more robust new furry friend, as mixed-breed dogs have demonstrated better health and longer lifespans than their purebred cousins. 95% of the eggs produced in America come from factory-farmed birds. Even if free-range farms were hugely more humane, the sheer number of animals raised to satisfy people's desire for eggs, meat, and milk makes it impossible for us to raise them all on small, free-range farms. It's interesting that one of the definitions of the word human is sympathetic. More and more people are beginning to show that they understand why that is important. Cheap meat is the problem. The answer is to replace meat recipes with vegan meals. Since we can't count on the meat, egg, and dairy industries to protect animals from the most egregious forms of cruelty, what can we, as consumers, do? Opting out of paying someone to allow animals to die in a barn fire or at the slaughterhouse seems pretty reasonable. We all have prejudices to dispel. The need to get away from thinking that I am important and special and you are not, and the frightened mindset that tells us that certain others are of no consequence. PETA's campaign should be included in school curricula. If we can open children's hearts and minds to animals' needs, teach them to treat a dog or a chicken as if they feel fear and love and pain. As they do, then they will grow up to understand that we are all worthy of respect. Cows are gentle, interesting animals. I hope SeaWorld is exploring how, like Ringling, it can get out of the wild animal business. Bulls can do nothing to demand justice. They can only defend themselves as best they can in a fight with a predetermined ending and die never knowing why they were forced to endure such a painful and prolonged death. It's up to us, as a civilized society, to call for an end to the running of the bulls and bullfighting. Most Americans, like most Japanese, view their dogs, cats, and other animal companions as family members, and rightly so. It's time for the State Department to permanently change its official policy to allow all members of U.S. citizens' families, no matter what size they are, or how many legs they have, to evacuate together when disaster strikes. Pigeons are among the most maligned urban wildlife, despite the fact that human beings brought them to our shores and turned them loose in our cities, not something that they chose. Animal hoarding was a dirty secret until hoarders appeared on our TV screens and showed how they are compelled to collect so many dogs, cats, or parrots that the animals end up in cages only inches bigger than their own bodies, for life. Every time we consume meat, eggs, or dairy foods, we contribute to ecological devastation and the wasteful misuse of resources on a global scale. It's time to face facts. Most people stop being environmentalists when they sit down to eat. Going meat-free can make a huge difference. Studies show that vegetarians are, on average, 10 to 20 pounds lighter than meat eaters, and that a vegetarian diet reduces our risk of heart disease by 40% and adds 7 or more years to our lifespan. Give your dog or cat respect, patience, understanding, and love. And if you just change to one vegetarian day a week, that's a wonderful step that will save animal lives. It means you have chosen something kind instead of something cruel. I think if you're against cruelty and you look at what happens to animals in slaughterhouses and on factory farms, you have to be completely against eating meat. It's the 21st century. It's healthier for us, better for the environment, and certainly kinder to be a vegetarian. Perhaps one of the most important things you can do for human beings is wean them off an animal-based diet. It hardens the arteries and runs up our healthcare costs. The last thing a poor person can afford is a heart attack or cancer or a stroke. And that's all linked to a meat-based diet. I think animal liberation is human liberation. I have to think of the positive. That's how I cope. I don't have the luxury of having a dog myself because I travel too much, but I love walking and cuddling somebody else's dog. At PETA, we often say that the issue of how animals are treated isn't just about them, it's about us, how we behave. Whether or not we are religious, respecting others should be seen as just as important as looking out for ourselves, yet it requires discipline to change our bad habits that cause pain to animals.